Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 16th of July of 2025. Today we have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first let's talk about the funniest updates, and let's talk about France and Italy and Czech Republic. France refused to participate in the scheme for purchasing American weapons for Ukraine. Paris did not support Berlin's initiative to finance the supply of American weapons to Kiev. According to Politico, two French officials confirmed France's refusal to participate in the scheme actively promoted by Germany amid a shortage of European weapons. France, whose president has long advocated for the development of the US-owned defense industrial complex, is betting on purchases within Europe. According to journalists, there are just several countries that are going to, participate in this project. We're talking about Germany, Great Britain, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and 4 other Northern European countries. So that's it. For example, later we got report that Italy is also not going to do anything like this. Italy will not buy American weapons for transfer to Ukraine. Last time reports everything depends on the expectation of support for the financial plan from the United States, but the country's government does not intend to spend limited funds on expensive purchases of equipment from the United States of America. And we had report from the Czech Republic. According to these statements, the Czech Republic will not join NATO countries in purchasing US weapons for transferring to Kiev, the country's prime minister said. Also, we know that Slovakia most likely will not join this initiative, Hungary will not join this initiative, and most likely Spain will not join this initiative. So summarizing everything, we see that this is not the war between the Western countries and the Russian Federation for Ukraine. Now it seems that this is the war between the Northern Europe and the Russian Federation, because there are just several countries that are going to support this initiative: the United Kingdom, Germany, most likely several, maybe Norway, maybe Finland, and of course maybe the Baltic states. Obviously Poland will not join this initiative as well. So this is the situation. Furthermore, we got reports that currently nobody is sending anything to Ukraine, especially air defense systems. And of course the situation is not very pleasant and very good for Zelensky and for Kiev, because there are very heavy clashes along the line of combat contact. And furthermore, today several military experts reported that due to the fact that since the beginning of 2025 and probably since the second half of 2024, the Russians haven't been using armored vehicles in their offensive operations almost at all. So the Russians were using old vehicles, those that different forces had at the time when they started this or that offensive, and these experts are saying that the Russians managed to accumulate the significant number of tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, and it seems that the Russians during these 50 days, maybe later, maybe earlier, are going to begin another offensive operation with a significant number of soldiers and armored vehicles with the purpose to break through Ukraine defense completely. So let's wait, maybe it's just talks and rumors without anything that can confirm this, but anyway, let's wait and see, because when talking about the current situation on the ground, it seems that the Russians don't need armored vehicles, don't need thousands of soldiers. They're attacking almost everywhere, and the Russians, for example, during the previous 24 hours managed to improve their positions significantly once again. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground. We have a lot of changes, significant changes, and let's talk about them in details. For example, this video was published from the northeastern part of the Sumy region, and in this video we can see how the Russians managed to discover positions of the armored forces of Ukraine and the area of the village of Shostka. Lots of vehicles, military and forces were concentrated in a building that was attacked by the Russians by Tornado-S missiles. The Ukrainians suffered huge losses. Furthermore, we had another very interesting video from the Odessa region. For example, in this video we can see how Russians managed to discover positions of the air defense system of the armored forces of Ukraine. We're not talking about Patriot systems. The Russians discovered S-300 air defense systems, and as a result of Iskander strike, these systems were destroyed. Maybe this is exactly the systems that were destroyed by the Russians with Iskander missile, the only Iskander missile missile that was sent by the Russians during the previous night, at least according to the Minister of Defense of Ukraine. And we have this picture. Maybe this is exactly the moment and the place that the Russians damaged and where Ukrainian air defense systems were destroyed. I would like to point your attention that probably for the first time since the beginning of Russian attacks with drones all over the entire territory of Ukraine, we haven't received a map of routes of attacks. Very interesting and very weird why nobody published this picture, but the Minister of Defense of Ukraine published these statistics, and according to these numbers, during the previous night, the Russians used 400 drones and one Iskander missile. That Iskander missile that destroyed air defense system in the Odessa region. So the Russians used 400 drones, and after a very long operational pause. I would like to remind you that the last attack on all over the entire territory of Ukraine took place on the night between the 12th and the 13th of July, so between Saturday and Sunday, right before Keith Kellogg, the special envoy of Donald Trump, came to Ukraine. So the Russians decided to create a normal situation for this person until at least until they get information from Donald Trump about his future plans. But on Monday, the President of the United States of America issued an ultimatum to the Russian Federation, and the Russians changed their plans. And the Russians, as you can see, began bombing and attacking the territory of Ukraine. We expect that this coming night the Russians will repeat their attack, because currently, right now, these minutes, these hours, Western countries are sending weapons to the territory of Ukraine, tanks, vehicles, missiles, many other different equipment, and now it's very important for the Russians to destroy as many as possible, as much as possible, because the Russians are attacking and the Russians are about to get significant progress on the ground, especially in the Pokrovsk direction, in the Constantinovka direction, and of course in the northeastern part of Kharkiv Oblast. Now let's discuss everything in details, and first let's talk about the Dnipropetrovsk direction. During the previous video we discussed changes that were published by pro-Ukrainian resources, and according to them the Russians currently are moving in the western direction with the purpose to attack three settlements. The village of Andreevka-Klivtsova, which is located along the border between Dnipro and Donetsk regions. The Russians are attacking in the direction of Alexandergrad, and the Russians are attacking in the direction of Zelený Gai. As for the previous 24 hours, the most important updates from this direction are coming from the settlement of Vovchansk. This is the village I'm talking about. As you can see, we adjusted the map, and we adjusted the map based on this video, where we can see how Russians were taking under control this settlement. During this video, we can see lots of episodes how the Russians were bombing the settlement, including with RBK 500 cluster rounds, lots of explosions, lots of vehicles were destroyed and burned, and in the final part of this video we can see at least 5 episodes how Russians raised their flag in different parts of the settlement of Novokhatska. Based on this video and based on the report of the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, we adjusted this village in the complete Russian control. So for example, once again, this is the situation by the end of the 15th of July of 2025, and this is the situation by the end of the 16th of July. This village was taken, and now it's turn for the next village in this direction, the village of Zelený Gai. Most likely clashes for this area is going to start very soon, probably during upcoming 2 or 3 days. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Pokrovsk direction. During the previous 24 hours, a lot of interesting things happened here. First of all, the Russians began their offensive operation in the direction of the settlement of Vovchansk, and as a result of clashes, the Russians managed to take under complete control the western part of the settlement. Currently, the village is in pincers, and the Russians are trying to establish complete control over this territory. This is a very important village because most likely the Russians are not going to stop with the village of Vovchansk. With the fall of the village of Vovchansk, the Russians will try to take under control mine of Pokrovska, so these facilities. If Russians are able to take these facilities under complete control, then the Russians will be able to establish complete FPV drone control over the mine supply road M30 between the mainland and the city and the Pokrovsk agglomerations. If the Russians are able to do this, this is going to be a very huge problem for the Ukrainians. At the same time, the Russians continue their offensive operation in the northeastern and the eastern flanks of the Pokrovsk agglomeration. Today, we got lots of very interesting updates about the situation on the ground, and the most important is that the Russians, according to different very reliable sources, began offensive operation in the direction of the mine by the name of Krasnolimanska. So currently the sources reported that the Russians managed to take under control this forest to the east of the Krasnolimanska mine. The Russians managed to dig in deeper and to concentrate additional units. So most likely this upcoming night the Russians will make their first or the second attempt. Yes, it's going to be a second attempt because during the first attempt the Ukrainians managed to repel Russian attack and to force the Russians to fall back. But most likely that was just a reconnaissance in combat. This upcoming night the Russians will make another attempt. If Ukrainians lose control over this mine, this is going to be the beginning of the battle for the city of Rodinska. If Ukrainians lose control over the city of Rodinska, this is going to be the beginning of complete collapse of the entire Pokrovsk agglomeration. Furthermore, according to different sources, several Russian groups managed to answer the village of Krasny Liman from the east, and currently there are very heavy clashes for the eastern outskirts. This is very important foothold for the Russians because the control over this part allows the Russians to cut supply and support from the cities of Mirnograd and Pokrovsk in the direction of Rodinska. This is very important to secure southern flank while the Russians are attacking the mine of Krasnolimanska. Different mappers adjusted their maps in this area. According to pro-Russian resources, the village of Fedorovka is about to be taken by the Russians completely, the village of Boykovka is about to be taken, and the village of Toretsk is about to fall in Russia's hands. So the situation here is about to be resolved by the Russians, and then they will be able to move further in the northwestern and the western directions. Very interesting video we got from the settlement of Nikolaevka. I would like to remind you that several days ago the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation reported that the settlement of Nikolaevka was taken by the Russians but without any video proofs. And just today, on the 16th of July of 2025, several Telegram channels that has connections with the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation published this video where we can see the process of how the Russians were taking this settlement under complete control. There are lots of episodes, and during this video we can see how Russian soldiers were moving through the village of Nikolaevka, clearing one building after another. During this video, several episodes were recorded and geolocated. So according to this video, the Russians secured or were spotted in the central part and in the northern part. So based on this video, we haven't adjusted anything because we adjusted the territory of this village based on the report of the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation. So it seems that the fence of Novoekonomichna is about to collapse, and the Russians are about to take this territory under complete control. This is already a battle for the Pokrovsk agglomeration, and the Russians will not stop until they finish the battle for this area or until Ukrainians are able to stabilize the situation and to force the Russians to fall back. But it seems that it will not happen. Now let's talk about the city of Constantinovka. As for the previous 24 hours, we haven't received anything that can confirm additional progress on the ground. During the previous 24 hours, we were waiting some updates, several updates from the area of the settlement of Sherbinovka, which is located along the river of Krivoy Torets and the railways between the city of New York and the settlement of Constantinovka. We're talking about this pocket, and we haven't received anything. But right before we started making this video, several pro-Russian resources reported that during the previous 24 hours, the Russians managed to improve their positions significantly on the territory of the settlement. So it seems that tomorrow we're gonna receive additional videos, and most likely tomorrow the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will confirm complete control over this territory, which means that the battle for Katerinovka and Kliman Big are about to start. As for the Sivas direction, during the previous 24 hours, we got lots of videos. The Russians were attacking Ukraine positions in this area, lots of episodes that confirms that the Russians are still preparing this foothold before the beginning of a major offensive operation, which most likely is going to start also this summer. The Russians are advancing not so fast, they're moving very slowly, but they're moving, and this is very important. Today, several pro-Russian resources reported that the Russians once again managed to improve their positions in the village of Serebryanka, in the area of the settlement of Verkhnekamenska, and to get a bit closer to the city of Siversk from the southeast. We are waiting for additional geolocations, and we most likely are going to adjust the map in Russian favor in coming days. Now let's talk about the Kupiansk direction. We got very interesting updates during the previous 24 hours. This video was published for example, by Russian sources, and here we can see how Russians were attacking another base in the area of the city of Izum with drones of Gerain. Lots of explosions were recorded, lots of warehouses and ammo depots were destroyed as a result of this attack. But the most important updates are coming from the northern part, from the most northeastern part of the Kharkiv Oblast. The Russians during the previous 24 hours managed to improve their positions once again along the border. So we are talking about this area. This information was provided by pro-Ukrainian resources. As a result of offensive, the Russians secured this territory and forced Ukrainians to fall back. As we can see from this configuration, the Russians are about to begin another offensive operation in the direction of the settlements of Ambarna and Khatnia, and this offensive is going to start, most likely the Russians are going to start in coming days. The most important updates are coming from the city of Vovchansk. As you can see, we have adjusted the map, and we have adjusted the map based on the video that was published by the 57th Brigade of the Armored Forces of Ukraine, which is a core brigade in this direction. And according to these geolocations, as you can see, the Russians managed to take under complete control the western part of the city of Vovchansk on the Ukrainian side of the river of Volcha. During this video, we can see lots of episodes how Ukrainians were attacking Russians in different sides and parts of the city of Vovchansk. There are lots of episodes, but just 3 of them were geolocated. The Ukrainians attacked Russians on the territory of this industrial zone itself. The Ukrainians attacked Russians in the most northern part of the western Vovchansk, and the Ukrainians attacked Russians on the edge of this huge forest. But the most important of this video is that Ukrainians were attacking not the Russians who were, let's say, inoffensive, or those Russians from sabotage and reconnaissance group. I can't watch the entire video due to significant casualties and violence, so if you have access you can take a look at this video. The most important idea of this video is that Ukrainians were attacking positions of the Russians. So it seems that Ukrainians were attacking Russians that were controlling this area for a very long period of time. So it seems that the Russians secured this territory, let's say, months ago, and now Ukrainians were trying to force the Russians to fall back. And I would like to remind you that several days ago we got reports from the group of forces north that the units of the 57th Brigade tried to counterattack in this area, most likely with the purpose to restore control over the western part of Vovchansk, but all attacks of Ukrainians were repelled by the Russians. Furthermore, several episodes from this video took place along the river of Seversky Donetsk Donbass, and several pro-Russian resources by the end of the 16th of July of 2025 colored this huge part of this huge forest under complete Russian control, as if the Russians by the end of the 16th of July secured this territory completely. So it seems that the Battle of Vovchansk is about to be finished, because the Russians secured the most northern part and the Russians secured most likely the western part of the city, and most likely the Russians in coming days will continue their offensive operation with the purpose to secure the city of Vovchansk completely. This will allow the Russians to enter an operational space and to move further deep inside of the northeastern part of the Kharkiv Oblast, probably in the direction of the settlements like Belый Kolodец, Veliki Burluk. So it seems that the Russians are tasked to secure this area until the beginning of a real negotiation process between Russia and Ukraine. And that's it for today. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.